morning, everybody. Thanks for coming to the webinar. Kind of learn a little more about the VITA Ambria product, which is a pressable ceramic. A little bit about myself. I've been in dentistry since I was 20 years old. So this is going to be my 14th year. I started out as an assistant, became an RDA, still did that time to time. So I learned a lot of my technician skills on the chair side. So I think I got a lot of really good help. I didn't really get to see a lot of pressing during those times. It wasn't until I went to technician school over in Pasadena when actually I really started to learn about press. Fell in love with pressing automatically. It was the first thing that I really enjoyed. I think pressing is a really unique option in the laboratory. You can get some really definitive results. Very happy with a lot of the materials. I started learning about the Ambria material here at VITA, actually in school at Pasadena. I believe it was just an email or a flyer on Ambria. We were pressing out Emacs and milling out Emacs at school, and then chair side as well. We do a lot of Emacs. So I wanted to go around the corner and kind of get away from what everybody was kind of doing. VITA, an Ambria product, was a little bit on the newer side during that time, so I kind of just dug my head into doing some research, kind of seeing what it's all about, seeing all the other VITA products that we had to kind of utilize what this Ambria product could be. I remember looking at Ambria at school and asking my professors, and it was like, they didn't really know about it as well. So it was kind of like an extra research project for me. I think I got some extra credit too to be able to kind of explore Ambria and kind of explore different pressing methods and different ways versus this kind of the techniques that we learned in school, and of course just milling, which was kind of everybody was able to learn how to mill real quick in school. Some of the really awesome things that I like about pressing is I get a lot of better results, better precision fits, different things like that. So I want to kind of go over a few of the reasons why I prefer to press. I'll kind of share a little bit of my workflow. I know there's a couple of different workflows that we could use for pressing. We'll kind of go into some aesthetic views as far as using some porcelain and kind of like when to use it on some of our pressable materials, the Ambria, and different things like that, and some of the stains, and kind of seeing like the different effects on that as well. Ambria is a pretty cool, unique material. This photo right here on the left is actually like what it looks like when it comes out of the little pack. So it's kind of cool. It doesn't have the purple like an Emacs milled. Kind of has a more of an amber color, more of like a honey color. It looks pretty cool. But once it's fully processed, then it really traditionally looks like any of the colors that the VITA Shape Guide has to offer. So it's kind of cool. I get a lot of people when they take a look at this ingot. It's pretty interesting. They'll call me and they'll ask me, "Is this the color what 1F1 is supposed to look like?" and different things like that. So it's kind of a unique color to really stand out. All right, so here's a few reasons why I like to press. I didn't really learn this in the beginning. When I started pressing, I was more admiring the art, the way that the glass can kind of form, the way pressing is. I like to stand out. It's artsy, millable, or pressable stuff is a little bit more detailed work. So I'm more drawn to those kind of ideas versus just plug and play and put a block in and go ahead and mill and kind of finish. I like the challenges. I think at the beginning of pressing, everybody kind of has a little bit of challenges. Trying to figure out how to position the pressing in your lab is always an interesting concept. But I think these are a few good pointers that really help steer the way for pressing versus millable. One of the biggest ones that I like to talk to my doctors, a lot of my doctors will actually ask me to press because of these reasons. Ambria and pressed materials. Ambria especially is a very dense structure. It's stronger than our milk products. It's stronger than the leading other brands in pressed material. That gives me a better idea to be able to share that to the doctors. And doctors normally tend to, I got about like 80% of the doctors tend to lean more towards stronger materials. Of course, once we start getting into the anterior region, we don't have to look so close on that, especially when things get bonded in. Tends to be quite strong. Ambria itself has about an MPa of 550 to 600. I'm pretty happy with that. Most of my Ambria goes in the anterior region anyways, so I'm not really having any occlusal forces or anything hitting on that. My favorite thing, honestly, about Ambria is once I'm able to kind of work with it, I can fully mill it, I can fully press my wax, I can go ahead and polish everything on my wax model. That way I'm not getting any surface flaws, I'm not getting any micro cracks from my millable. There are times where if I design something for lithium disilicate that I want to mill, sometimes I have to mill it once or twice because I'll end up getting some micro fractures. And then I'll go ahead and just choose to either press or kind of work around that by having to redesign and then design thicker areas so that way my mill can go ahead and mill and process everything. When I'm pressing, it's pretty straightforward. I can kind of fine tune everything, polish everything in the wax stage, and then I can go ahead and press, and I have really good results with that, and I don't have to really work so hard at the end. Don't have to worry about chipping. Sometimes that's always kind of not fun to have when I'm in the lab and I'm milling and I'm doing my lithium disilicates, or I'm milling my Trilux porcelain blocks, and I'll end up getting some chips or some minor scratches. You can definitely see them. So that's always a nuisance since I have to go get more material. Millable materials are quite costly. Burrs and different things like that too. So it can kind of get interesting. I prefer to press. It's just a little easier and less wear and tear. The lithium disilicate has always been great in aesthetics. The Ambria I was super pleased with when I started first researching it. A few of the things I like about Ambria, it has a natural fluorescence to it, which is really awesome to have. I've actually had some doctors call me this year looking for some fluorescent materials. I don't think there are other materials on the market as far as porcelains that are too fluorescent. I know some will say they are, and I've ordered some materials and I've ordered blocks and taken fluorescent lights and try and see if there's any fluorescence to it. Other materials don't. The Ambria does, so it kind of gives me that uniqueness that I can offer to the doctors, as well as some opalescence that's already inquired in the Ambria as well. And my favorite thing that I love, and this is what I use to steer my doctors more towards Ambria, is it doesn't have a gray to it like other lithium disilicates, especially when it's already bonded in the mouth. Sometimes you get that gray effect in the colors with the refraction and some other lithium disilicates. With our Ambria, I'm not seeing any of that grayness once it's all bonded in the mouth, and doctors are very pleased with it. Most patients don't really notice it too much, but especially my doctors, and especially when I'm working with it. Or when I'm working lab side, you don't really see the grayness too much on other lithium disilicates, but being able to work chair side and see some of the work go into play, I can definitely see the two different characteristics between those two with other lithium disilicates and the Ambria one. For those reasons, I'm really happy. I get really great aesthetic results, and doctors are really happy with that as well. This is a nice photo from one of our buddies, Lucas. So he was able to kind of just, use this photo as a demonstration, as a little bit of opalescence in the material once the product's finished. Kind of gives it a little bit more of a natural look towards your tooth. I love pressing because of my precision fit. Same thing, kind of just going back on being able to work with everything in wax. I can go ahead and fine tune my margins. I can fine tune my contacts. I can fine tune any of my second or third degree anatomy onto my anterior regions. I can really get detailed. I only press if I have any inlays or onlay cases. I will always have better, tighter marginal fits when I press. I have a lot of doctors, when they call, they will prefer to have me press because of this reason, because of the precision. I have a really nice microscope. I think it goes all the way up to like 40x, but I don't ever go to 40x. By using this, I'm able to really get all my wax really nice with margin wax when I go back. So that way, when I'm pressing, I can go ahead and have all my accurate fittings. And you can tell, sometimes I'll have the same case, and for studies in my lab, so I can show my other technicians or show my other friends, you can see the marginal integrity between pressing and a milled crown, especially when you take it under a nice microscope and put it up to your 40x. One of the biggest reasons I went towards pressing as well was when I was in school. Actually, when I was in school, I didn't think I was going to have a lab or anything. I thought I was just going to go straight to a laboratory and be a technician and kind of learn as I go. Looking at different startup costs, I think pressing is a beautiful way to go as a startup lab. Anybody that's coming out of school, going into ceramics, you can do so much with a press oven versus all your milling stuff as far as cost. As we all know, mills can be very expensive. You have to have third-party softwares for design, nesting softwares, burrs, all sorts of different burrs. I know some mills will, in their tooling chambers, need to be all filled. So sometimes you can put $1,000 in burrs just to be able to make sure that the machines run. We're constantly maintaining the mills as we should. Double checking all our parameters. It could be very time consuming, a little bit, very costly. With the press, I think I was able just to grab my press when I was in school for almost pennies on the dollar compared to going towards like a milling machine and getting the sintering ovens and different things like that. So as a startup, and I always recommend like people, some of my students and friends at school, if you're going to go towards ceramics, pressing is always going to be the way to go. It's a little faster too. I can press more than I can mill throughout the day. So that's always really helpful too for multiple cases, or if you're starting to really trend and get more units in. When it comes to milling versus pressable, I have a lot more control in the pressing as far as anatomy, morphology, and different things. This was kind of a funny photo because, as we all know, in a lot of big labs and then small labs too, I do it all the time. We can go into our ExoCAD or 3Shape and we can go ahead and just mirror images, take out stock libraries and kind of match exactly to what's our neighboring tooth and so forth. So this was actually kind of a funny joke photo. One time just recently, my buddy sent me a case and said, go ahead and just copy number 9 for number 8. And, I think I just milled this crown for him. So I was able to take this photo and send it over, and I said, okay, I'm copying exactly what number 9 looks like. But I'm pretty sure we get cases like that all the time where doctors are like, yeah, go ahead and just copy this or do this. And you look at the other side and you're like, what is going on here? So pressing is pretty unique because you get to have the artist in you come out when you're at the labs and you see all the other technicians doing pressing or being able to teach it. You kind of stick out compared to all the other lab technicians because you get to really use the art in you. You get to really either hand wax and be able to develop that custom anatomy, custom morphology for that patient. So it's kind of interesting. Working chair side, I get to kind of see a lot of the patients. I do a lot of custom shading, impressions and scanning as well. I get to be a little more familiarized with that patient, their age, their culture, and different things like that. And I can kind of fine tune and put that back into the tooth versus having to just go on a computer and just copying neighbor teeth or just using stock libraries. It's quite interesting when I can kind of go and see cases and all the libraries look the same. Totally understand it. I do it too in my lab. I mean, especially for posteriors, we've got a couple libraries that we're just popping in and out and milling and sintering, and we get to send it out. But definitely for the more extreme cases, aesthetic cases, doctors that really want that extra oomph, I like to press because then I can actually get the full artistic characters out. All right, so here in my lab, I actually use almost 99.9% everything from VITA when it comes to pressing. So this is going to be a few of the products that I use for pressing and that I like, that I help. I kind of biased because I got started at school, so I had a lot of free time at school where I was able to take a lot of products and use. So it was a little easier for me to go ahead and just kind of start using A to Z VITA products. I think the hardest part is when a lot of people are very accustomed to what they're using. They like to stick with that, and that's totally understandable. Been there, done that. I know it's kind of hard switching different things, whether it's in real life or in dental. But once you kind of see the different characteristics and how it can really help you, not only as a technician, but as a whole for the lab, I think it kind of makes sense. This is the VITA press oven. This was the first thing I ever got in my laboratory. I was, I think, 6 months into school when I started, and I kind of got lucky. One of the professors said that somebody bought a new VITA press oven, and it was an extra one, and they wanted to get rid of it. They asked if any students wanted it. So I volunteered, or not volunteered, I raised my hand and picked dibs on it. I had to go drive, so I drove 8 hours to go pick this oven up. It was brand new, and it has been with me for about 7 years now. Low maintenance. I clean it and calibrate it every quite so often, but I definitely have used many hours on it for pressing. The reason why I chose to get this VITA press oven, not only was it a local and a good deal for me to go pick up, but because of the VITA press oven, as a startup and as a student, I was able to use this as a press oven, and then I can go ahead and use it for staining and glazing, and then I can go ahead and use it for porcelain as well. So it's very multifunctional, and I can use it in different ways. So as a student looking at different cost setups, this made the most sense to me. And I think that was that was definitely the biggest reasons why I was able to do a lot more with this oven than I was with any other ovens on the market. There is a computer that goes with this. I didn't have a photo to show you guys. If you're not familiar with the VITA ovens, there is a little V-pad. It kind of looks like a little iPad that connects to this furnace. And that way you can have all your different parameters. This press oven is an open system. So you're able to press different materials, and you can use it to use different porcelain lines, different stains and glazes, and things like that. It's very easy to use, very low maintenance. It's been my best friend. I think when I picked it up on a street called Lost Gold. So this porcelain oven is nicknamed Lost Gold. So that's kind of cool. So it's a good luck charm for me, since it's the first thing I got in my lab, and I've loved it. Getting into the ambria material itself can be kind of a interesting product. When I first studied it in school, when I was in school during that time, we were just learning about zirconia. Not that I didn't know what zirconia was. We were you know, of course, using it, but going in more depth on zirconia, etc., at a school setting. When the VITA Ambria product came out, and then seeing that it had a zirconia reinforced kind of captured my eye as well. And I was trying to think, how could I use this extra strength towards my advantage so I can, you know, kind of work with it with the doctors and so forth. So Ambria has a little bit of zirconia. Normally, I like to say it's about 9 to 10% by weight. So it's not very much, but it's just enough to kind of give it that extra edge. Once it's done through its process before you stain and glaze or add porcelain, its MPA finalizes about 550, give or take, so 550 up to 600. Gives it a little bit more of an extra edge. I really like it. I mean, I'll get a lot of requests for it on inlays, onlays, just because a lot of biting forces over in those areas. And if I need to use a different product, I can. But some of the cool features of the Ambria pellet is it comes in 2 sizes. We have a small pellet and we have a large pellet. And you're able to use those, of course, on the different weight measurements of how much wax you're going to press. I tend to use a lot of the small pellets. I've used the large a couple times. I think it's just force of habit. I just always buy the small. It has 3 different translucencies that it offers. Actually, I'm sorry, 4. We have a translucent, which is just T. They have a high translucent, HT, super translucent, ST, and a medium opacity ingot. The main differences are going to be, I really work with a lot of the T and the HT. T, I use about 80% of the T. I like it. It's not too translucent, but it's not opaque enough. It's like right in the middle, so it's a perfect medium for me. I mean, I normally don't really use a lot of HT unless I'm doing multiple units and I want everything. Excuse me. I'll use the HT if I want to. If I'm using multiple veneers and I just want everything to be a little more on the uniform side. If I'm doing single units, matching single units or anything like that, I'll just do the T because if I need to, I can go ahead and stain accordingly, or I can micro layer accordingly and get it to that translucency as well. Sometimes if I use the HT, it could be a little too high translucency, and then I can't go back down. The ST material is quite interesting. I haven't been able to use it yet, but understanding what it is, from my perception, it seems like it's just a clear window. There is no A1, A2, 1M1, ST. It's just ST by itself, and that kind of demonstrates over here on the left under the VITA enamel super translucency, ENL, ENM, and ENI. So we just have 3 different enamel translucencies, and this product is really great for prepless veneers or micro prepped veneer work where the dentin is all very uniform, and then you kind of place this enamel right on top, 0.1, 0.2, very thin veneers, and you let the dentin really just pop through that Ambria for the shade. So I haven't been able to use that material too much in real cases. A lot of times I use Ambria. It's either single units I'm matching or 4 to 6 veneers at a time, and I'll have to use some of my colors. The VITA Ambria, the Ambria system I enjoy because it has so many colors to offer. I work a lot with a 3D master shade guide with my doctors, especially for veneering. So I'm able to kind of get around and do a little more with the Ambria shade system than I am with anybody else. I'd rather not work as hard trying to get shades and this and that. This just does a really great basis for me. A lot of my Ambria, especially my veneer cases, I really work in that realm of OM1, OM3, 1M1, 1M2. I do a lot of one-on-one. It's probably my favorite shade, and love using ambria for a one-on-one. When we talk about the medium opacity ingots, these are quite interesting. I like the idea of these medium opacity ingots. I haven't had a chance to use it in a real case. I tend to micro layer more so than full buildups. So these medium opacity ingots for me are made for more of a buildup. That's why I just haven't been able to use it so much. These medium opacity ingots came out to be able to block out dark stump shades. We have 3 ingots, MO, MO1, MO2. One is more on the whitish side for your OMs, one is on your reddish side, and then one is on your yellow side. So it really gives more of a basis of a dentin, and then you go ahead and build on top of that with your porcelains to get to anywhere that you like. There's little cheat sheets and guides in the workbooks that kind of show you which MO ingots you can use and which porcelains to use to get to your final goal. So that's always helpful. But normally I tend to just use our regular T ingots. That does tremendous for blocking out for me because there is a little bit of zirconia in this product. So it's able to block out a little bit more than other lithium disilicates. And then I can go ahead and get to my final destination, whether it's with stains or porcelain. Some of the cool characteristics I can use with ambria is when I am pressing, I can go ahead and change some of these fire rating settings, and I can kind of play around with the translucency. This is a photo demonstrating for the medium opacity ingots only some of these temperatures that you can get to make it more opaque, more opacious, or more translucency for your end goal. With the regular ambria translucency and HT, you can get away with minor changes as far as trying to get more opacity or more translucency out of the product. So that's always kind of helpful too. So you kind of have to play around with it. You have to do some trial runs. Kind of like I said, I feel like I was a little spoiled in school because I had a lot of free time as far as not working on real cases and deadlines. So I was able to really kind of play with a lot of these materials and play with different parameters and see what does what and why, just so I can kind of use it for my game. Here's a quick little chart of a little comparison to GC and Emax. And Celtra, as far as the translucency kind of equivalences to the ambria, I've always in the past used Emax, and then I started using GC more towards college and school, and then the last couple of years I've just completely switched to ambria. A couple quick parameters for 100-gram muffle and 200-gram muffle. I tend to use the 200-gram muffle for pretty much everything. Sometimes even if I just have a single molar, it's just my go-to. I go to 200 all the time. It's a little bit more forgiving because it's bigger. So if I screw something off just a little bit off, the 200 is more forgiving for me than the 100. I tend to do a lot more with the 200, and then I can go ahead and use my large pellet as well and really get out a lot. So this was always kind of nice because using the 200-gram pellet within 40 minutes, I'm able to get out, let's say 5 crowns, just an average. And I can get out 5 crowns every 40 minutes, and I can go ahead and just keep a good rhythm. That's why I think it's kind of wise in the beginnings for me to get a pressing oven, so that way I can kind of really get out a lot of units, good timely manner, great aesthetics, and great fits. Compared to my mill, when I got my mill, it's a little older side, so I'm milling out. I can mill out a wet mill, a lithium disilicate in about 20-25 minutes, depending on my milling strategy, if I'm using 2, 3, 4 burrs, etc. So let's say 25 minutes and I'm only getting 1 crown. Sometimes it's just a little faster and easier for me just to press because I can get more units out of it. I use a lot of the Lumex in my lab. Before Lumex, I actually wasn't doing porcelain as well, so I've just been studying porcelain the last couple years, and more so the last year, I've been using a lot of the Lumex kit. I think it's a wonderful kit for anybody. The couple reasons why I like it is it works on my ambria, it works on any other lithium disilicates, it works on zirconia, as well as titanium, but I haven't done any titanium with Lumex. So I stick to my VITA Lumex box because I can use it on my zirconia and I can use it on my ambria, and I don't have to carry 100 different porcelain bottles and carry a manual of different formulations, etc. With my Lumex, there's a couple kits. We have one micro veneer kit that pretty much just has it all as far as different warmths for your dentins, and a lot of incisal depths. So I can kind of play with that more so. That's like my main kit, and I just carry that with me everywhere. And then the Lumex kit also has a classical, and then they have a 3D Master selection. So the 3D Master is pretty much another reason why I just carry it, because there's no mixing and matching different formulas from different other products. I can just go and pick a 1M1 and I get a 1M1. Especially when I'm using my ambria, everything is already written down in the Lumex kit. I can go ahead and press out a 1M1. Then I'll go ahead, most of the time I'll use out of the Lumex an opacious dentin. There's an opacious dentin, and then there's a regular dentin, and then you have your enamels. But most of the time with ambria, I'll do ambria with an opacious dentin of Lumex, and then I'll go ahead and layer my enamel. When I'm doing my zirconia, I don't use the opacious dentin so much. Zirconia is already a little bit on the opacious side, so I'll just go straight to dentins and enamels. I do a lot of micro veneering. I don't do a whole lot of crazy buildups. These are kind of two little photos of how I would one-step, two-step micro veneer on my ambria units. It just gets the job done. Looks great. I mean, the shade is to the T. Putting it on the ambria, having that background glass, I can have a great light refraction as compared to my zirconia if I did any micro veneering zirconia anterior units. I don't use any zirconia in my anterior regions as a monolithic product. There are times where I will cut back and I'll add Lumex to my zirconia to make it more lifelike and more look like a natural tooth. And that's really only if the doctor says they want the zirconia. My go-to is ambria for the anterior. I'll go ahead and press it and just layer it. Few other products I use that VITA offers that I use for my pressing system is the muffle system and the plungers. There's a few different reasons why. The muffle system, it doesn't have its own muffle system for the VITA press. I've used Ivoclar investment rings for my press unit as well. I just tend to go through them a lot. So lately there's the VITA muffle system has actually a really good price compared to everybody else. So I've been leaning towards the VITA muffle systems a lot. I tend to try and keep them as clean as I can, but they can wear and tear a little bit, and almost yearly I'll just replace them. I don't mind, even if they're still kind of on the edge. To me, it's just one of those things that's just part of maintenance, and you should just recycle them and buy new ones and just make sure everything is current. For the plungers, I've had some different experiences with plungers. This is just a regular disposable plunger that VITA has. I go ahead and just use it from VITA again because it's very price effective compared to the other vendors. I used to use the Allux plunger, and that was like a non-disposable or recyclable one. I was only really able to get a couple hundred presses out of it before I started kind of getting some flaws. Then I switched over to the disposable plungers. and everything kind of went away. I don't think I found out why during that time, why everything was kind of failing with the Olex plunger. I think I went back to my professors and asked a couple months after. And basically with the Olex plunger, yes, it could be forever. I think at the time I just wasn't aware of it, but that you have to really, really maintenance that Olex plunger. You have to keep it clean and keep it from contaminating. So if there's any chips on your plunger, if there's any glass that's still on that Olex plunger, different things like that, you can get a lot of contamination in your pressing. Some of that alumina can get into your lithium disilicates and cause voids as far as for shades and different things like that. So it's a little bit more challenging than I thought it was going to be. So it was just better for my lab just to switch over to the disposable plungers. They're easy, they work great, they divest at the same time when I'm divesting, and I can just move forward and don't have to worry about a lot of voids or contaminations. VITA also has an investment material that also is a great price compared to other vendors that I switched over to. It's a speed investment, which was also very nice because I go ahead and okay, yeah, I'm gonna sorry, I just had a guest come in. So yeah, I go ahead and use some of this investment material, and great price compared to everybody else. It's very user friendly, and it is a speed material. So when we go ahead and use other investment materials, I think I was investing and almost waiting about an hour and then going ahead to place it in the burnout. With this investment material, I let it sit for about 20 minutes before I put it in the burnout. So it's a little quite fast. And so you have to work with it a little bit on the faster side as well. I always recommend keeping a really great vacuum mixer, keeping that up to date and make sure you do your calibrations as well. That's always going to be a huge help. When I first started pressing, I bought the press oven, but I didn't buy a mixer. So being as an assistant, I thought I had a bigger ego on the mixing. So I think almost for a year I was mixing I'm sorry, not a year, but for quite some time I was mixing all my investment by hand. So that was a challenge, seeing all the porosities and aftermath. Also with this investment material, when I use the investment material with VITA and the Ambria, it's not one or the other, it's a little bit of a combined mix, but using the investment material with the Ambria, I do not have any reaction layer on my ceramic. This is a huge thing for me, as when I was pressing in the beginning, reaction layer just took forever for me to wipe and clean. Things like that. It kind of steered me more towards going back to milling. I just didn't like it. So once I kind of started learning on the Ambria that there was no reaction layer because of this, it just made everything just night and day. Once I divest, I can just move on. It's amazing, and I do have some photos I think later I can show you on the reaction layer. VITA has these awesome sprue guides. I wish I had found these. I wish I had these at school when I first started learning. These helped tremendously when I found them at VITA. They come in our kits. I believe if you buy some Ambria kits, they come in. I'm not sure if you can buy these separately. These are a great way to avoid any mistakes, especially just not for great technicians, but if you're bringing on family members to the lab and teaching them, and they're in school, or just any student that's learning, these are always great to have. There's two of them. There's one for a 100-gram ring, and there's a second one for a 200-gram ring. And it basically, once you screw everything up, it'll show you your angles, and then it gives you room, so it shows you if you're within range on the millimeters between the height and your wall. So that way you're in the actual spruing zone, and or the heat zone, and that all your ceramics is going to be properly okay. As far as my workflow, I don't really hand wax teeth quite often. Are there times that I do? Yes. Most of the time, my cases are coming in via intraoral. If it's for multiple units, I used to only just have the doctors give me analog impressions. Now I transition. I can have them just send me intraoral scan, and it's okay. I can still do my veneers. I can still do my full crowns and things like that. Once I receive the scans, I'll go ahead and just like normal nowadays, I'll design everything on exocad in 3 shape, and then I go ahead and mill it in wax. Once I mill it in wax, then I can go ahead and place it on my models. I'll print the models, or if they send me an impression, I'll make the model with the impression, but do the design digitally. From then I can kind of fine tune things on my model. If there's things that the mill couldn't capture, or chipped, or just whatever, I can go with my wax pen. I can fine tune things. Most of the time it's like black triangles. Sometimes my designs can't fully close black triangles, or something happened with the mill. Mostly it's a design, and I'll go back and put it on my impressions, and then I can use my wax pen. I can close everything up lingually. I'll go back. I'll use. I'll scrape back on the margins. I will use special margin wax and go back on the margins under a very high performance microscope. And then I'll go ahead and add all my anatomy, and then I can add even my textures and different things like that as well that I want to see on my wax. So I'll do everything quite heavy on the wax, because once we divest and then polish, we'll start losing microns. But I can go ahead and do a lot of my stuff in wax. Not only can I go show it to the doctors, they can work on it, I can work on it. Makes things a little easier versus millable, where it's just, you can see something on the screen, and then later it's either void or something's missing, and you have to go back, redesign, which is more time on the bench, remill, which is more materials, things like that, etc. So this is a little bit more of a predictable way for me. I like to just mill it in wax. I have done some where I print in resin. Those are more on experiments. I don't mind it. Resins are pretty cool, a little cost effective when you print your teeth in wax and then go ahead and burn it out. Just keep in mind, when you're using any other investment materials or the VITA one, whatever it is, there are different burnout times for when you use different waxes, different acrylics, and different printables. So sometimes acrylics and resins need longer time in the burnout, so you can have a better run in the for the pressing. So I just tend to just stick to my one wax. So this is a good photo of a non-reaction layer. So this is the best thing in the whole Ambria and the investment material is I don't have to work with this reaction layer. I don't have to buy an acid wash. I don't have to spend time cleaning. There are cases where I just don't get any reaction layer. Most of the time it's really little reaction layer, as you can kind of see in this main photo on this big guy. This was a unit that I did, and I took this photo for us. You can kind of see on the facial, it's not really the best photo as far as a being a little out of focus, but you can kind of take my word for it. But on that facial, there's just no reaction layer at all. Once I sandblast everything, it'll sandblast. If there is a little bit of reaction layer, the sandblast will mark it off. And then from there, I can go ahead and just descrew it. And then I'll take it to this stage. So this is a unique stage that's different from any other pressable materials. It's called a power glaze. So once we sandblast and clean, we just descrew, and then you do not do any descrewing or polishing or anything in this state. You would go ahead and place it in a regular porcelain furnace or the VITA press oven, because it is a porcelain oven as well. There's a special parameter, and it will go ahead and power glaze. Basically, it just really makes the more uniform and does a final crystallization for it, more towards the zirconia part to make it stronger. It'll bring out the aesthetic. So that's one thing people call me when they're doing ambria is once it's all done, being divested, they'll call and say, hey, the color is not, you know, 1-on-1. But it still needs to go through this stage. And then after this stage, we can go ahead and polish it. I typically use the Wagner burr set. I love those burrs. They're amazing. The blue ones. They last a long time. They're great. The last couple years, I've been using the VITA polishing set. This works great on the ambria as well. Works great on lithium disilicate and zirconia. It's an all ceramics set. This set actually reminds me of my Wagner blue burrs dramatically, so it was a big switch for me. But once we're done with this power glaze setting, then we can go back and we can kind of finalize taking the screw off, and then we can go ahead and we can polish the unit and so forth, and get it ready for either staining glaze or any micro veneering or full build if you'd like to. All right. So here's kind of a cool transition. Was able to kind of talk about some of the uniqueness characteristics that I like to see, not only from pressing but from ambria. What I use as far as my lab, my workflow, and which products that I like from VITA. So I want to show you a couple cases that I've done with ambria. Not only is ambria great for, you know, multiple units, but we can use them for small single individuals as well. I have a single crown over here on the left. I think we pressed this out at about 0.1 and 0.2 in some areas. It was very thin. All I did was just glaze this crown. This one on the left is no porcelain and no stain, just glazed and monolithic crown. No textures. I didn't add any textures here. This case I actually did in school 2-3 years ago with ambria when I was studying it. This is a cool little video trying to really just demonstrate some of the textures that I added onto the ambria ingot. When you play with ambria and you feel it, because it is stronger and because it has that zirconia in it, you will feel how dense it is. So adding characteristics on the bench is kind of nice and forgiving as a technician because it is denser. I can go ahead and play with the material more. I don't have to worry about chipping and ruining it per se. Traditional lithium disilicates can cut like butter. So you have to be very delicate, especially in a case like this guy over here on the left, that's 0.1, 0.2 thin. Traditional lithium disilicates, it can be very challenging and hard. Sometimes I always joke around like they're so thin and so, you know, glass-like that my professor, Professor Caccioni, used to always say, yeah, don't look at my crowns or my veneers because even they're so thin when you look at them, they crack. They're just so delicate. So having that zirconia reinforced on the ambria ingot really kind of, I like to work on it a little more. It's a nice background, nice material to grind on, and I don't have to worry about ruining anything per se. So not only just single units, this is a really awesome case I wanted to share with you. I don't have too many photos or too many details, but I believe this was a 1-on-1 case. And this is some of the reasons why I like to use the ambria, is because of the 3D master systems and because of the colors and the shades coordination that I can get out of it. I think this case we did number 7 and 10, both laterals, just to kind of make everything a little more on the uniform side. So this was kind of the end results for 7 and 10. So it's not crazy. I didn't do any additional. Maybe I did a little bit of 1-on-1 stain. The VITA, I used the VITA accent stains. There's a stain that's just M2. and basically I would press out this 1M1 ingot, full contoured, and then I could just use a little bit of M to kind of highlight some of the chroma on that gingival area. This case, I did do an Ambria 1M1 HT for high translucent. That way I can kind of match some of her neighboring teeth as far as the incisal characteristics that she has. A few things, you always look at photos and want to go back on cases. A few things that I would probably change in this case would mainly be perhaps, kind of like 8 and 9. You see on the incisal some of the warmthness over there on the on her in between her lobes. I probably would want to go back and add those characteristics, most likely with a little bit of porcelain. So that would have been kind of a nice transition. But overall, patient was very happy and doctor was very happy. This doctor, this was her first time using Ambria when I switched her over. You can kind of see in this area, it's a little bit more translucent than it is on number 7. I think once we went over with the doctor, it was just on the preparations. Because the Ambria ST is translucent, I mean, it's a little on the translucent side than most. Different things like this little detail where if the doctor prepped a little too much, we're going to see more through that ceramic and get that translucent more so than number 7, where she had a better prep over here and a lengthier prep. That way, that translucency really blended in and matched more 7 and 9. So that would be a different thing that I would like to make, and you can always improve on designs and anatomy, right? But overall, for Ambria ingot, that's just a 1M1, really straightforward, really easy to go to, and as much as the other 3 master colors from the Ambria selection, it just makes things a little easier. Oh, here's a nice, good photo of them as a whole. Here's another case, another 7 and 10 case. This was quite interesting. It was the same doctor. I think this was the same week. I got both these 7 and 10 cases, and so we chose to do Ambria again for this case. I don't remember what shades and what material. I was trying to go back on my notes for this case, and I just don't have it. Again, I have to give kudos and credit to the doctor and the assistants who were able to take the shade, because I think by them having to be able to match the shade, I was able to pick out a good ingot. This was a monolithic case, perhaps a little bit of stain, but just glazed and monolithic, no porcelain. The value system from the Ambria to match 8 and 9, I think, was right on target. Looked really excellent. That's why I give kudos to the shade takers, because I think they picked a good value and shade for this patient themselves. A lot of the times when I'm doing our custom shades, I go into the offices, they'll come to the lab. Sometimes once I train my doctors on shade, I always recommend, I wish I should put a picture up for this, but VITA has a easy shade gun, and just like it sounds, it's a little handheld device that goes right up to the tooth. It captures the dentin colors. You can take a screenshot of it, send it to your iPad, you can send it to the lab, etc. So that's normally my shade taking device. I'll use my shade guides. I use the easy shade, and then I take several photos for my shade taking. Normally when I like to do it myself, and then I'll teach the assistants, and then once I'm comfortable with them knowing how to do it, they'll end up getting a easy shade gun. And new updated shade guides, I always have everybody update their shade guides, so that way you don't lose value. You keep that value consistency together. That always helps me. So those two guys always are a really good, helpful system to take some of my shades. This is another Ambria case. I think this was not just 7 and 10, but it was 7, 8, 9, 10. So 4 units. very simple A1. This was done with Ambria T, so just the T, not the HT. So you can kind of see the differences between H, which we have, T, just that we have here. It's a little more opacity as compared to something like this case where it was the ST and we have a little bit more translucent. It's very similar though. I think this case, the neighbor teeth, there's a little more translucency because you can't really see the major differences between the T and the HT. So you'll just have to just press them both out just to kind of compare. But like I said, for the most part, I use a lot of T because from there I can go ahead and get anywhere that I need to be. In this case, it blends in really quite nice. I didn't really need to do any micro veneering. Like I said, I probably added a little bit of stain, maybe toward that gingival. I'm not sure if I used any stain on this one, but no porcelain for sure on this one. This was just straight design, build and wax, fine tune everything on wax on my model. I polish everything on my wax. I have 3 grits. I have three stages that I polish all my wax so I can have better integrity and final results. And then we end up getting results like this, where we have a happy patient and everything looks great. And colors are amazing, in my opinion. Here's an abstract case. This was a fun case too. Patient came in. This was a rescue case, actually. One of my buddies did this case, and I think he placed zirconia on the anterior, but only because the RX said, you know, a shade and zirconia, so he just did what he was asked to do. I think in this photo on the right, you can see that zirconia crown over there on number 9, and then them retaking the shade. Is that zirconia 5M1? Yeah, probably. Can it be a little more chromatic? Can we have a better hue out of it? Probably. Can we have different options so we don't have to have that opacity like most zirconias, not all zirconias have? Yeah, definitely. So I think after reviewing this case with my buddy and taking a look at different things, we were able to go ahead and choose Ambria because it's more natural, looks a lot easier compared to zirconia itself. Especially with this patient, you can tell she's little on the she's older. She's an older patient. She's got some crack lines through her teeth, and she's got different transitions in her teeth as far as colors. So I really like challenges like this. I like colors that are like this because I can go ahead and force the artist out of me. This case, you know, would have done amazing if we actually did some cutbacks on the full facial and added some of the Lumex. Lumex does have 4M1s and 5M1s. I don't know if they have a 5M1. No, they don't. They got a 4M1, and then you can just raise the chroma a little over to get to the 5s, etc. This was pressed and stained, the 2 crowns, 8 and 9, over here on the left side on the photo. This was a race, so I think I did this, and then my buddy, his wife, did the other 2, and we just did a little battle on who can stain the best and who can do this. So she ended up winning, so shout out to Yesenia. She did great on that case, and my 2 crowns still sit at the bench. But you know, sometimes you can have some little bit of fun. Here's an awesome, cool photo that I just grabbed from my one of our good friends, Danny. She does a lot of pressing, and she does a lot more on the Lumex and a lot more porcelain buildups, more so than micro veneering. So I thought this was just a really great photo of her number 8 and 9 with the VITA Ambria pressed and with Lumex porcelain heavy buildup as what she did, along with a great photo black and white to kind of show you that value transition that we can correlate and grasp from the VITA Ambria and the Lumex materials when we have that opportunity, and or I'm sorry, not when the doctors give us of course great shades, great shade taking. Once it all starts with that. But this is some of stuff I was talking about, like in the beginning, the aesthetic zones, the what we can see out of the material as far as matching shades, matching value, and different things like that. This is where I think VITA Ambria stands out compared to other lithium disilicates, not just with the shade integrity. This is a little bit more in strength and easier to work with, faster to work with on the bench. Super great results. Very happy and pleased with this material and the cases that I've have received. This is my last case. This case is in progress right now. This has been a 2-year project with me and my doctor, my main mentor doctor. And this is a full mouth rehab case. The reason why it's been 2 years is because we did ortho first. This is a photo of where he finished with ortho. Then we went ahead and placed him on a Kois deprogrammer and opened up his VDO a little bit. And then I was able to go ahead and start our wax up and go ahead and take some designs and things like that. I'm actually working on this case with a good buddy, Lucas. He's one of our educators and one of our KOLs as well. So him and I are kind of teaming up on this case, and we're doing the designs and the pressing and porcelain and different things. This is going to require a lot of different material options, etc. But we went ahead and just did ambria by itself in the anterior region, and then well, actually that's as far as we've gotten so far. So we'll go ahead and figure out the rest later. But I'm pretty sure we got a good plan. Kind of got some uniform colors kind of going on here and not so uniform colors in different areas. So it's kind of a big project, big challenge. Was really happy to kind of to take it on. This was the first part that we have done. It's going to be broken down in a couple other sections. We'll be getting the lower anterior quite soon, and then the posterior, so we can build up the bite. I'm not sure which order we're going to get it in. This was an ambria press that I pressed and added some slight textures, and went ahead and processed this. This was with a T, and then I think I don't know what cement we used, but I think the cement kind of made it a little bit on the opaque side. I tend to always ask the doctors which cements they use, what brands, so I can kind of guide them on which color solutions and things that I need to prepare them for. And etc. I think this case came out really well as far as design and for pressing. I'm very pleased with it. I think if I could go back, we wanted it to be monolithic in the anterior region. If I could go back, I probably would have maybe done a little more translucency, a little more colors and depths and things like that. But nonetheless, I'm pretty happy with the design and the outcome so far and how it's come out. So very curious. Follow me for more. This case is an ongoing case still, so hopefully I'll wrap it up, and then maybe on my next webinar I can go ahead and just kind of talk about treatment plan, why we did what we did for this case, and kind of go over other alternatives of VITA materials that I would use, or perhaps I will change the treatment plan and we'll go ahead and use some different materials from VITA in this case to kind of see what we can go on. So that should be pretty cool. Really happy that you guys showed up and wanted to learn more about ambria. I'm very pleased with the product, and I can always help anybody that has any questions. I think after this, Jim will put up a slide on my information, so you can always text me, call me, email me. If you have any questions that I can recommend you on or help you get started, or just simply have a one-on-one technician call and just show you the simplicity of ambria that has helped me and my technicians dramatically in our lab compared to other lithium disilicates. I'd love to share that with you and love to share you my story. So thanks, guys.
Thanks, Noah. That was great. So it was a great overview of pressing and what you do in the lab and your experience. So really appreciate that, and I'm sure the audience does as well. Those of you, I'm going to end here with a few things. So let me bring back my presentation here. All right, so those of you that are asking about the CE, we'll process that. Give us a few days. We'll use your registration information, and then we'll get that CE to you. You can always go back and visit this a recording of this webinar. We have on the VITA North America YouTube channel Noah's webinars. He's done some in the past. There's a few that are all posted, along with many other topics across the board, whether it's digital dentures, digital CAD/CAM, shade, photography, ceramics, and so forth. So please visit us at the VITA North America YouTube channel and go ahead and take a look at any of those recorded videos. And you can watch them, watch them. If you need to get a hold of some of our the VITA reps, here's a list. We're updating this as always needed. So we're hiring a few other people as well. So we'll have that down the line as well. The next webinars, we do have a November 18th with Peter Peasy called The Canvas of Ceramics. Really nice topic. And then we discussed about topography on December 18th. You know, visit us on those two webinars. And then we also have a 2-day workshop where I think we have maybe 2 to 3 spots open left. So we have to max out at around 12. This is a 2-day hands-on workshop with Peter Peasy, and that is using the Lumex AC as well as zirconia. So if you can make it, please join us here at Brea, California. And then this is, as Noah mentioned, here is his contact information. Please note, though, that Noah travels quite a bit. He does lectures, all sorts of different educational activities and training activities across the U.S. So, in north of Canada, basically North America. So if he doesn't get back to you right away, just give him some slack, and he'll get back to you as soon as possible. We do have several questions, Noah. One is, when are you coming to Vegas?
Oh man, hey John, how you doing? No, I hope that's John. Vegas, I don't know, but yeah, give me a phone call. Let's work something out. I'd love to come over if you guys need me to come over and do some pressing and hang out. You know, that'd be awesome.
All right, and then can you use the HT Ambria ingot for darker or discolored preps, especially for the anterior work?
Yeah, you can. You know, the zirconia in it kind of helps a lot compared to other lithium disilicates. It really just depends on how dark that stump is going to be. If you want it to be on the safer side, I would probably just go with the T. That way you can build in that translucency if you need to with a micro layer or a little bit of stain. You just kind of have to see that transition. If they're very heavy stump shades, your doctor doesn't want to add any quorum buildup or add any pink composite to kind of calm down the dead root canal, the teeth. I would say just go with the MO. That one will block it out 100% and a lot more forgiving. So you can go ahead and use that, but you will have to layer on the MO as well. It's a little safer.
And if you are going to layer to your press material, which of the Ambria pellets do you use, or does it matter?
It does matter. So you have, I'll say 4 different options would be my go-to. So the first option would be micro veneering, and you can use any pellet that's on the line, whether it's a classical, whether it's a 3D master color or HT or T. That way you have your dentin color, and then you can just add your enamels, or you can add your translucencies and work a lot around with that system. If you want to do a bigger buildup, you can use the medium opacity ingots, and there's 3 of them. And yes, it matters because each ingot represents a different dent and warmth. You have one that's more on the bleach side for more bleach colors. You'll have one that's more on the yellowish side, and then you have ones that are a little more on the reddish side. So that way you have those are your 3 colors for your canvas, so you can do your buildup. And then there is a guide, so if for whatever goal you're trying to hit, there's like a really quick, easy ambria guide that'll show you use the yellow one and then use this porcelain to get to whatever color that you need to.
You had mentioned about the ammo with the translucency by adjusting the temperature. Can that be done with the other pellets?
Yeah, I've seen in my experience with the other pellets, if you dial it down temperatures, you can get a little less translucency. If you dial it up, you can get more translucency. The MO are more dramatic in changes, so you only see little changes on the other pellets in my experience. I tend to not play around too much with those parameters. If it is, it's about 5, no more than 10 degrees. I'd rather go down. So I'd rather start with like an ST and go down 5-10 degrees to play with the translucency. You're going to be losing translucency, but it's a little easier, and your ceramic won't bubble up or get voids and things like that. So once you have your if you have your amber pellets and you're going up in temperature to increase your translucency, if things start getting a little too hot, we'll start seeing some voids. You can maybe see some bubbles on the ceramic itself. So it's up to you if you want to grind and play with that, or go down, and then that way you just add some porcelain, like from the Lumex, the micro veneer kit, and then you can pretty much get to wherever you want.
Another question, is there a special glaze that I have to use for the ambria?
Yeah, that's a great question. There is. It's going to be anything that's a low temperature. The one that I currently use is going to be the glaze LT for low temperature. I get that one through VITA as well. That's pretty much my stock glaze because it can fire as low as like 730. For ambria, I'm doing about 750. Same thing if I add any Lumex, my final glaze is going to be about 750. But it's my stock glaze because I can go as low as 750, but I can also go as high as in my 900s if I need to. So, but yeah, that is a good question. Only low temperature for your ambria.
And do you ever just polish your veneers, press veneers?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Yeah, actually, in our last photo, if I may, I'm gonna.
Yeah. Okay. I'll bring you back to you become.
Okay. Yeah, I'll show you guys a quick photo because that's an interesting.
All right, you're the presenter again.
Okay. All right. So for this last case, that we're currently working on, these are actually just polished and slightly buffed. So these are not glazed at all. And that was built into our treatment plan on purpose. This patient is a male. He's a little older. So glossy teeth are just not natural to me. I see it a lot more in my Los Angeles and Orange County higher end aesthetic veneers. Everybody glazes, high polish, and etc. Sometimes if I want to get very detailed and work it into accordingly to the patient, we won't. So for this case, for this ambria, that's kind of why it looks a little different than some of these other crowns. Like these ambria crowns 7910 are glazed. Same thing with this one, 710 and glazed. They pop more. This one was probably not so poppy because it looks a little more on the matte side. This one's fully glazed, and these guys are not. And that's why it kind of looks a little more on the matter side. It looks a little bit on the more opacious side because of that glaze. But we just did that on purpose so that way it kind of matches the patient. So yeah, not all the time do you need to glaze your crayons. If I probably could have put a little more oomph on my polishing while doing that case, and a little more oomph on the paste, and it would have brought out more shine. But I did it more so deliberately. I have had really great experience in the past with ambria when you just really put a lot of oomph on polishing ambria. It's almost a material that you kind of don't even need to glaze it. Honestly, it really pops.
All right, and then if I use the ambria, do I have to change my workflow? So I guess probably pellets, if you know.
Yeah, there's a few things that you'll change. I mean, the biggest thing is it's going to be a little faster and easier, so that's going to be a better of a workflow. You don't need an acid wash. You don't have to buy the hydrofluoric acid wash stuff either, so you'll save money in that department. Sometimes that could be like 40 minutes of washing and cleaning the crown, so you'll skip that. That's 40 minutes that you save on the bench as well, because once you divest it, you can just go ahead and power glaze, stain and glaze, or add your porcelain, and then you're done. My workflow is really quite fast with pressing ambria, and what we do is everything gets invested the night before. That way in the morning, once all the machines are get turned on, we'll press our units up until 12, from 8 to 12, all the pressing's done, and then everything gets cooled down, and then I don't touch the units until the next day. So while people are investing in the morning, the ones that came out that are cold from yesterday, that's the ones that I'll go ahead and divest. It takes me 10-15 minutes to divest. Takes me 2 minutes to desprue. And then I put it in the porcelain oven to power glaze, which is not my time. And then I just go back to my staining glaze, my porcelain, which is my regular bench time. So that's just going to be normal bench time as far as if I were to mill it anyways. So it's really quite fast, and I get more units like that too. So in the mornings after I divest everything, I'll have 20-30 units ready, and then I can, if I'm just glazing, then I can just glaze those all in 1 or 2 cycles, and then within 30 minutes I'm pretty much done for the day. So it's a little faster, a little easier, and more forgiving than I think most pressing workflows. And I'm happy to share that with you guys too, if you guys want to email me or call.
All right. And then you showed your wax patterns that you milled. What was the material, and do you put it in a refrigerator before you mill it?
That material is just wax. It's a pressable wax. I tend to buy the one from ETI Direct. I believe it's I'm pretty sure it's got to be an ash-free wax disc that helps a lot. As far as freezing the wax, I actually have never heard that technique. I'd love to learn more about that. That's quite interesting. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I could see that it would shrink the wax, maybe closing some porosities that would help down the line. Not sure if it helps what it does to the fit as far as like marginal integrity and things like that, if it shrinks too much. Would love to explore that. I haven't heard that one.
And then let's see here. Should I always use the power glaze or tempering step?
You don't always have to, but I highly recommend it. Because you're going to get the strength out of it, which the doctors are going to prefer anyways, and that's kind of like one of your highlights. That was one of my highlights that I took to the doctors was, I have a stronger pressable material, and they're like, okay. So I just power glaze it, and then you get your it closes all the pores. It does all the finalization, crystallization shapes for the zirconia. So you really don't want to skip it.
All right, and then just the last couple of questions on the shade, related to shade. Do you select a material, the ingot, a shade lighter or the same as the prep?
It can go both ways, right? It's kind of a challenge. Most of the time, it's a shade lighter. That way I get a really nice blend, and then if I need to do any corrections on the bench, then I can go ahead and stain. And that's kind of like what those few cases I was showing you where I mentioned, I was like, I may have stained a little, or maybe if I did, it was a little. It's for that reason. It's because I'll get like a shade lighter, and then I'll just add just a little stain to kind of match it. But there have been times where I'll just pull out, if the case is 1M1 and that dentin looks really nice color on the photo, I'll just pull out a 1M1 ingot and it will come out looking like 1M1. And then I just have to glaze.
All right. And thank you, Noah, again for all your time. It was a really good presentation. And for all of you that are on, again, Noah is gracious enough to let you give him a call. You can follow up some questions with him, get a hold of him. But again, he's a busy bee, so make sure you give him some time to get back with you. And other than that, any last comment for the audience, Noah?
No, I'd love to, just chit chat with you guys if you have any questions. I really hope if you're pressing, to stick with it. If you're not pressing, you should highly look into it. It's a great way of art, a great way of having that really nice integrity that you get to show to your doctors as well. It really separates you from the pack.
Great. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Again, thank you, Noah, but everyone that has joined us today and to listen. Again, you can always visit the VITA North America YouTube channel to see a copy. If you have any questions, get a hold of Noah, get a hold of us here at the help desk at VITA North America, and we'll be happy to steer you in the right place. And that, everyone have a great day. Thanks for joining us, and this will end today's webinar. Thank you for attending.